You are listening to KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank, your partner in possible.
Welcome, everyone, to the Border War podcast on the Kansas City Sports Network, presented by 360 Vodka. My name is Jarrett Sutton. I'm joined, as always, by Jeff Hawkins. And, Jeff, we're post-Christmas, getting ready for the league play. You have the William Jewell Holiday Classic going on right now. Holiday hoops are still in full swing.
Yeah.
So it's a fun time of the year with some things pivoting to league play in college, but you got some holiday hoops going yourself at the William Jewell Classic, which is one of my favorite tournaments in high school ball in KC. Played 4 years in high school in the William Jewell Classic. How much fun is that? How much and coached against Billy Thomas last time?
Yeah. It was. It's unique. It's a unique experience, especially for coaches and the kids, just because the environment, a lot of the city, there's nothing going on during Christmas break, and it just kind of brings out the city. People come from all over. I saw some guys that I haven't seen since high school that came out, and some of them had kids playing in that tournament as well too. But it's just a cool experience, and got a chance to go head to head with my big brother Billy Thomas. That was always fun being able to coach against him, because he's been doing it at a high level coaching for a while. So it was fun to get to go head to head with him at Rockhurst.
I remember growing up going to the William Jewell tournament when Pembroke Hill was playing, when Kareem Rush was there. This is after Jerron had left. And it was at capacity. The Mabee Center. It was like the fire marshal alert or whatever, where there's too many people.
Yep.
And you seeing Pembroke play then. I was in like fifth grade or something like that, and it was like the coolest thing right around the holiday to see like all teams from different leagues and all across the city and now state that are coming in playing in this tournament. And you see just basketball fans. There's my dad goes up there and he'll just sit there for a day watching games. It's a lot of fun, and playing it is just as fun too when you're in the tournament. So you've been. I mean, you got the 3 a.m. games, you got the Jewel. You've been scheduling really well.
Yeah, we got a 9 p.m. game, 9 p.m. game today. So
that's big time. Well, we got a lot to get to. Kansas getting ready to start league play. They host Oklahoma State to start league play, but they got a good win against Harvard, who I thought actually gave them somewhat of a game to close non-conference schedule. And Kansas gets a nice break here with Christmas, and just one last fine tune-up, and a great game from Jalen Wilson, 21 points in 34 minutes, really played well. More consistency again from Kevin McCullough, who has another double-double in that game. I still think he's getting more and more comfortable with every game. And then Grady Dick with 11 and 7, and KJ Adams with 10 and 7. So production again from those top four in this game to really carry Kansas to a victory against Harvard.
Yeah, and again, you mentioned it early. It was a game that they started out a little bit slow, and credit to Harvard. Excuse me, credit to Harvard. They came and fought. They stuck to their scouting report, and which kept them in the game. And again, obviously, the Jayhawks prevailed and opened up the run later in the second half. But again, you mentioned it, Jalen Wilson. He's been great. He's been Mr. Consistent. I mean, I think I can really call him that for the Jayhawks. He's been Mr. Consistent. You know what you're going to get out of him. But I think the cool thing is, KJ Adams, he's producing more. Grady Dick, he's kind of Mr. Consistent. You know what you're going to get out of Grady. But I think KJ Adams and McCullough, Kevin, those are two of the most impressive guys to me over this last stretch of about 4 games for the Jayhawks.
I agree. And Kevin McCullough, we talked on our last pod of just a guy that at the beginning of the year, you could tell he was just getting a feel, trying to figure his way into the system.
Yeah.
Practice is one thing. Games are a totally different thing. But I think his consistency speaks to probably his comfort level.
Yeah.
And he's doing, more on the glass. I mean, he's known so much as an on-ball defender and switchable defender. But I think he realizes, and this is what an older player does.
Yeah,
KJ's going to be Kansas's 5, and he's really emerging and playing well, but they're going to need help on the glass, and I think that's a testament to Kevin McCullough, just on selfishness, to know and have the understanding, I got to go to the glass, I can't leak out, and that's why Kansas done such a great job on the glass and rebounding the ball, knowing they're not, they don't have that traditional big five, and it's going to be by committee. And Kevin McCullar's just doing his job, and that's exactly why Kansas targeted this kid. Is he's going to do the little things that impact winning.
Yeah, and you mentioned the rebounding, and I think, and again, that's where KU did win the battle on the rebounding end against Harvard. And I think right now it was more you could expect. I mean, before I would say the last 4 or 5 games, you could expect Jalen Wilson just to get you a double-double, get all the rebounds. I looked at Jalen almost as a guy to get all the rebounds. And now, I mean, he only had 6 against Harvard because other guys are fighting for rebounds now. McCullar had 11. Grady had 7. KJ had 7 as well too. And then other guys coming off the bench, grabbing 2 and 3. So other guys are rebounding the ball, which again will give Jalen a little bit more energy on the offensive end, and I'm pretty sure he's not gonna complain about that.
Yeah, no question. And I think too, when you look at this game, like you said, and we've talked about this before, you're gonna have games where you play well offensively, you shoot the ball well, everything's rolling for you, and there's those games where you're playing at a high level. Then there's those games where you're playing okay, you're not playing great up to the standard, and there's games where you just don't play well, and you don't shoot the ball well, and you have mistakes, but you find ways to win, you find ways to build on leads, and then this getting stops perspective of just the Kansas defense, what it always comes back to, holding Harvard to 54, and let's not make any mistake of disregarding Harvard. They're a smart team. They got guys that can score it. Chris Ledlam led them in scoring. He's their best scorer. But I just thought Kansas did another great job defensively when things weren't going well offensively, particularly in the first half, right? They didn't shoot the ball well in the first half from 3.
Yeah.
They were better in the second half, but I just thought their defense, most importantly, again, it's what travels, right? It's their most reliable piece of the puzzle with Bill Self programs is, don't lose your eyes on offense. Make sure you understand the defense is what carries this team more times than not. You got to defend to play for Bill Self. You got to defend, period. But their defense was another big piece of this win for them.
Yeah, it was. And we all know that Coach Self's a defensive coach, and you're really starting to see with this team, and this is kind of how I judge a lot of teams. What type of team are you when you're not making shots? Are you that team that puts your head down, points fingers at your teammates, blames the coach, blames whoever it may be? You may be blaming a fan. Like, what type of team are you when you're not making shots? Or are you going to be that team that's, you're not making shots, but hey, we didn't make this shot, but we got to get back on the defensive end, and we got to guard. If we're not making shots, we got to make it so they're not making shots, or they're having tough opportunities to take shots. So Coach Self's been great at doing this. This team has really bought into this. Not every Coach Self team's buys into that, but I think this team has really bought into it. You do have some newcomers. You have some guys that haven't played as much, has had many reps as because of last year, and this year they're getting some reps. So these guys are just gelling in. Coach Self has done a really good job of getting these guys to gel in, and there were some questions a little bit before. And again, he's still trying to get those bigs develop, those younger bigs develop. But what he's got going on with these guys right now, I think it's pretty special, and you couldn't ask for more coming right into league play.
Yep. You look at too the numbers from the bench. I always look at the minutes with Kansas bench. You had Bobby, who played 15 minutes, Bobby Pettiford, and then MJ Rice played 9, almost 10 minutes. What's kind of your thought right now with where the bench is going into league play? I think this is a good time to kind of we know what we're going to get from those starters, right? I mean, they speak for the consistency, like you touched on. You know what you're going to get from those guys night in and night out. I'm really curious what Coach Self is thinking right now going into league play. You know what I mean? With just where he can really go from the bench. I think there's trust there with Bobby Pettiford. I think probably he's built enough trust where, I think Coach Self is comfortable playing him. I still think MJ Rice is a guy that can really help this team, but he is a freshman. He is going to have mistakes. You love him because he comes in the game and he wants to make an impact. Yeah. But I think sometimes playing with poise and, doing the things you got to do to be a thinker on the floor, I think sometimes get lost.
Yep.
Yeah. So Like where are you at right now with just kind of the bench and from a coaching perspective? You need bodies and you need some depth to sell some guys. Where are you at right now?
I mean, you look at the Harvard game, you see KJ Adams 30, 31 minutes, Jalen 34, Grady 32, DeJuan 31, McCullough 33. When you start getting into that league play, especially the Big 12 play, I mean, these teams they have years and years and years of scout material on your teams. I know the players change each year, but they know pretty much what you're going to do. So I think that bench has to be developed. So where Coach Self is mentally right now, again, that's going to be hard for me to speak. Where I would be maybe, I would hope that, this stretch between Harvard and Oklahoma State, or at least the first, two or three games in the league play. And I think Coach Self really wants to get his guys going. I think if he can get, maybe what Coach Self is thinking is, if he can get these guys going, mid-January to early February, get that bench developed. It's taking probably a little bit longer than what he wants. But I think if he can get them going by then, that would be great. I mean, the earlier the better. Yeah. But I think, that's tough, man, because you need that bench production. You just don't want to rely on your starters. They're going to need breaks throughout the game, and you want to be able to bring guys in to where they help you by not hurting them. Help you by not hurting you as well.
So as we transition to league play, I do think this is an interesting, I guess, coaching piece, because as you know, coaches love to practice.
Yeah.
And you talk about having 9 days off, and now obviously they took time off for the Christmas holiday. But I also think this could be a time where they could have 3-4 practices where they're getting after it. Coaches ease back on the practice, physicality and the intensity as you get into league play, and games start coming rapidly, and you kind of fall into the league schedule and you get into that groove over the next 2 months.
Yeah.
But you have some time to really, to your point, like have those difficult practices that I think Coach Self probably wanted to have. Yeah. Not to say he, pictured this or scheduled this, but I think he's probably happy he's got practice time. MJ Rice was sick, missed a lot of practice time. So could be just a small thing where it's good to have practice time. I'm just speaking from an NBA perspective too, with so many games that come so rapidly. Even coaches at the NBA level will say, we need some practice time. You need to just be able to walk through stuff and put guys in position. And there's still the teachable component in season you have to have. And I think Coach Self, he's a mastermind with just how to get guys going, especially in league play. You mentioned the development of the bigs. I'm really curious where they're going to be in February with this bench. Yeah. It's the one thing I've circled with this team to really follow, but they're still playing at such a high level. They're still a top 5 team. They're still a team to be a force in all of college basketball. I think they're obviously the favorite in the Big 12, but the practice time right now, I think, can go a long way for this team throughout league play.
Yeah. I mean, and you mentioned it, that practice time is precious. Because there's teachable, like you said, that's where the teaching goes, and the learning comes as well. I mean, you get the learning as well too. The players get the learning, the coaches do the teaching, and that's where your program can continue to grow. And to be able to have that practice, that practice time, and I know how Coach Self is over the break. I mean, he's not messing around during Christmas break. They're going to get after.
Let's think about this, man.
Unless he's changed. I haven't been there for a while, at least when I play.
The Christmas practices are no joke, man.
Yeah,
it's
man,
like, Christmas, great. We get a couple of days off, and then you're like, but then you're coming back. And I remember.
What'd you say?
We had a practice in Mizzou where we came back from Christmas break. We had 2 days off, and there were trash cans set up around like it was like an October practice, and we're like, whoa, hold on now. Wait a second. But we had so much time. Coaches were like, great, let's get you guys in shape. Let's go for 3 hours. We're going to have some hard practices here to get ready. I think that's coaches love it. But, man, when I saw that 9 days, I'm like, oh, man, I bet those guys are hating this right now.
And that's funny because when I first got to KU, man, like you start figuring out, man, we get a month off for Christmas break. I'm like, man, we're gonna have some time to like go back and chill.
No,
Couple
no,
of days to
sir.
go back and chill. Couple of
Nope.
days, and then we're working, and that's the same with Coach Self too. When I got here, like Coach Self really worked us. He really worked us on Christmas break and in the summers too. But again, he's won 2 national championships. So, you know, when I look at it now, I'm like, geez, I shouldn't have been complaining. I should have been like, thank you, coach.
Well, that's why I expect too for this Oklahoma State game.
Yeah.
You know, guys are gonna be like, "Oh, we have a game," and usually
They'll
when you have
be
that much
hoping
time,
for a game. Yeah.
you're hoping for a game, and typically when you have that much time off and you go pretty hard, you come out firing on all cylinders. Usually, that's why coaches do it, right? They don't want to have any lull. They don't want you to sleepwalk, into a game, especially when you start league play.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this Oklahoma State team for a second. They're 8-4. You look at their schedule, you look at their roster. They're a similar team to where they were last year. I still think there's some conversation to be had around, what Coach Boynton had to deal with the NCAA, and I think that impacted some things in terms of just recruiting.
Yeah.
We have to say that about this team, but they do have talent. Avery Anderson and Bryce Thompson, and Kansas fans know Bryce obviously very well before he transferred. Yep. Those two guys really carry this team. They have Caleb Boone back, who's a big that you never know with Caleb Boone. He can have a night where he really can take over a game and nights where he really struggles. So you look at this Oklahoma State team, you're in the family now. And, coaches know each other. Coaches know players really well, especially returners. Coach Self has had a ton of time to game plan as well. There was probably some self-scouting going on. Now you have time to prepare for Oklahoma State. You've been around Coach Self. I think we talk about the Mizzou game. Their preparation was perfect. I mean, I thought it was perfect in terms of how they executed in the Mizzou game. I expect them to come out and play that way against Oklahoma State when you have this much time off. But it is a league game. It is at home, CBS game, 1:00 game. Yeah. This is how you want to start league play at home, day game. Yeah. This is what Bill Self wants going. It's a fresh start going to league play right now for Kansas.
It is. And this is a game that Coach Self always, I think he might scout a little bit harder, stay up a little bit later. Anytime you see the Oklahoma State Cowboys on the playing against the Jayhawks, Coach Self's always going to take that game seriously. Like, I mean, that school means a lot to him as well too. Oklahoma State. That means it means a lot to him as well too. And he knows where he's coaching at. So he wants to make sure, like, okay, now if Oklahoma State's playing someone else, I'm pretty sure Coach Self might be like, okay, like, yeah, I would hope they win. Like, I want them to do good. But when they're playing us, like, I got to get that win. And that is one of the games that he gets very detailed. So you talk about practice. I'm curious how the practices were after Harvard up into this game, because this is a game also that means so much to Coach Self. So I would think the attention to detail of this game was really expressed to the players to where he got his point across.
No question. I think a big part of this game too, Oklahoma State has size. Yeah. And Oklahoma State brings Musa Cisse off the bench, who was a transfer from Memphis. He's 7'1".
Yeah.
So this is a game that gets back to gang rebounding. That's why it's a great sign that Kevin McCullough's on the glass. We know Jalen's going to be on the glass. Grady having 7 rebounds the other night. Great sign. Grady's got to rebound the ball for this team. And we touched on Grady. Yeah. He doesn't play like a freshman. Like, he's not allowed to play like a freshman either, even if he is a freshman. Yeah. There's just so much. It's going to be by committee by that starting 5 to really make an impact, start the game fast, play fast too. I think they could run Oklahoma State off the floor in this game if they want to. It depends on how Oklahoma State wants to guard DeJuan Harris. It's a big part of their matchup. But matching the intensity of gang rebounding, because Oklahoma State has some size. They got athletes too, and Kansas is going to have to match that in this game.
Yeah, and again, I think KU they judge a lot of their success on who's winning the rebounding war, and you look at it, Oklahoma State has a slight edge on rebounds this year, so that's going to be a big task for for the Jayhawks, making sure that they can keep them off the glass, limit them to one shot. I think that's going to be really huge for this game as well too. No second chance opportunities, and again, being able to get that rebound and then run the floor. I think that's going to be a strength to KU. But the only way you can really run the floor, there are some teams that, and when a shot goes in, they can get that ball out and get it up the floor quick. But there, you can't get the ball up quicker on a make than you can on a miss, because you don't have to take the ball out. So if they can make sure that they limit them to one shot, 5 guys box out. We talk about Grady, all these other guys doing a better job of boxing out, especially in the Harvard game. But this is going to be a different animal than what they saw at Harvard. I think athletically, Oklahoma State's a lot more athletic than a Harvard team. So you're going to have to see them sticking to those small details, those mechanics, making sure they hit somebody, box them out, and go get that rebound with two hands, and then look to push it up transition.
No question. Oklahoma State usually plays 9 guys, so the depth in this game, you'll definitely want to circle and watch this game. So Kansas, Oklahoma State at home on Saturday, 1:00 game, and then they go to Texas Tech, and here we go. It's one game after the other. Here in Lake, they got at Texas Tech and at West Virginia. So 2 pretty tough road games right out of the gate after this Oklahoma State game. So you want to start fast on your home floor. And will be a long stretch off for Kansas, but starting on a high note after beating Harvard, they get Oklahoma State at home. So, Jeff, as always, great to connect. Good luck the rest of the way in the Williams Jewell tournament.
Thank you, sir.
We'll talk next week.
All right, have a good one.
All right, Jeff.